Hello, eRank, and welcome to, oh man, it's flashing. Welcome to another eRank Live Q&A with me, Starla Moore, and him, 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 Anthony Wolf.
Hi, everyone.
Did you get the strobe effect?
I did. I get it all the time.
Oh man.
Yeah. You got it really bad, huh?
It was like a horror. Well, it's perfect. It's Halloween time, so we got like the haunted house strobe light.
Oh, okay.
That was really fun. Whoa, disco. Awesome. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Pam is here, but she's sick, so she's hiding. She's going to be controlling everything and making weird things pop up on the screen and, helping us to keep our ducks in a row, because the last time Anthony and I tried to do this by ourselves, we messed everything up. So welcome. Feel free to get your questions in the chat. Anthony, we did have 2 questions posted early in our early bird thread in the Facebook group.
Okay.
Would you like to make the announcement about our cool survey after we get through those? That way it gives people a little bit more time to get on the stream.
Yep.
Cool. Okay. So let's see. So we had one question asking, they basically just said that they opened their shop in late July, and they added their listings in August. They've got 70 listings, but no sales, and they don't know what they're doing wrong. First, I mean, there's a lot of advice out there right now, Anthony, and I don't know if you've seen any of it, but there are a lot of people who are saying that you have to have so many listings to reach a level of success. You need to just list every day. 70 listings that aren't selling is kind of a lot to add to your shop with no proof of concept. That sounds expensive in terms of your listing fees.
Hard to say what could be going wrong there without actually seeing the shop, the listings, the pictures, the products, really. And then we can maybe take a look at the picture quality, the titles, all those sort of fun things, and provide some sort of meaningful sort of advice. As for magic numbers, well, I've not seen anything from Etsy that says you must have so many listings before we will let you sell. I think that's baloney. I suspect there's some other factors there that are impacting this poor person at the moment. So
yeah. It's a bit like going to the doctor and saying, "Oh, doctor, my stomach hurts. What's wrong with me?" And the doctor starts to walk towards you with a stethoscope, and you say, "No, don't touch me." You have to be able to look at everything that's working on the inside in order to assess what exactly is wrong. We don't know what you sell. We don't know if it's seasonal. We don't know what your SEO looks like. We don't know what your photos look like. We don't know if there's any demand for what you're selling. There's just too many factors here that could be going on. My biggest piece of advice, though, is to start looking at the people who sell what you sell and do so successfully, and compare yourself to them. Do your photos match up to theirs? Are they, the same quality? What keywords are they using to successfully sell similar items? Don't go and copy and paste their whole titles or anything, but do a little bit of investigative research and see what is making them successful. And it doesn't mean that if you replicate their exact strategy, you're going to hit their level of success, because they've likely been doing what they're doing for a long time. But it can help you to start to diagnose little issues that might exist within your current strategy. So, all right. Let's see. This is one that I figured that we would get. So lately, every time I open Facebook, I see someone saying that my shop was suspended or shut down. And obviously this makes everyone feel scared and uneasy. I keep seeing this about, this thing about the $5,000 Informed Act. Is there anything sellers have to do to comply with this? Here's the thing. I don't know what that is. And Anthony, do you?
No, new to me.
So we're probably not the best people to ask. We could do some research and take a peek into it. and maybe be able to come back next week and say something, but I don't feel comfortable trying to
Yeah.
navigate. What?
Can't even speculate on that one. Never heard of
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
What we can say is that we're seeing it across the board in all industries. We're seeing it happen to POD sellers, but we're also seeing it happen to handmade sellers. We can speculate and say what we believe to be happening, but until we hear something solid from Etsy, the answer is we don't know. What I personally believe, and this is completely, just out of my own head based on what I've observed, is that Etsy is trying to crack down on people who are selling things that they shouldn't be selling. And the only way that they can do this is with, an AI system. It's not like they have enough people to go through the millions of Etsy listings, right? And sometimes this system messes up. And there are a lot of sellers on Etsy. And I think that this system is learning, and Etsy's still trying to figure out what to do with it. And right now it might just kind of be acting like a toddler. And then I think that, when we send in our counterclaims, to Etsy and say, hey, my items do comply, I think a lot of times we get caught up in another automated system, one of Etsy's messaging, automated systems, because a lot of those responses are copy and paste. They don't really acknowledge the issues that are presented. Now, one thing I can say is that I've had several students in the Handmade Alpha Academy who have been really persistent, even when Etsy has sent them that email that says, like, our decision is final. If that seller knows that what they're selling is allowed on Etsy and that they're not selling like copyright stuff or drop ship, stuff, as long as you're persistent, there have been sellers who have been able to get their shops back even after Etsy has said that their decision is permanent. It just takes a lot of persistence, reaching out on different channels. LinkedIn seems to be a really good place to comment on some of Etsy's posts to try to get their attention, because that's their more professional channel. I wish that we had something that could make everybody feel a little bit more settled, but right now we just don't know. And we're just as upset about it as you guys are. So, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I cannot add any further wisdom to that.
Yeah, we're frustrated too, guys. And if we hear anything, we'll let you know. What I do know is that sellers, even when they've been told that their shops are permanently suspended, they have been able to get them back. It's taken time and frustration and a lot of back and forth, frustrating communication. But I have several students who have done it. So don't give up. Don't lose hope if it happens to you. But in the meantime, just keep vigilant and, make sure that you're doing everything you can to comply with Etsy's rules and guidelines. And I guess we'll just keep you guys posted if we hear anything.
Yep.
All right. That is for
the toughy stuff.
Huh?
They were tough.
Yeah. So that's it for our 2 super hard group questions. Before we get into the questions from the YouTube chat, there's actually not very many of them, so feel free to get some more questions in there. Anthony, do you want to talk about the buyer survey?
Yep. So for those of you who are on our newsletter, you'd already know about this, but around about this time every year, we work with one of our data providers who has a survey company, and we say, right, we want to get the opinions of buyers, not secondhand information through a seller who knew someone who bought something from Etsy once 3 years ago, but buyers who have purchased from Etsy in the last 30 days. So that's our annual survey. So we have them reach out and find for us 1,000 people who have bought on Etsy, and we ask them a whole bunch of questions. And the reasons why we do this are multiple. One, we want to make sure that we're giving you good advice, that the advice that Etsy give us and the best practices, they actually jive with buyers that are out there. And we do it each year to see if there's been any shift in sentiment or buyers' perceptions around certain things. And what we're doing is really looking at ways to help you boost your conversion rates and revenue and so forth. So we fire off, I think it's 20 something questions to to these folks, and over about a week they get back to us. And so we have the results. Should we post the link somewhere?
I just popped it down into the chat both here and on Facebook.
Excellent, excellent. So I strongly recommend people go in there, have a read of that. We've put a lot more effort into it this year. Michelle really went to town on this. So that, there's key findings at the top, which is kind of a nice sort of easy readable sort of thing. But then if you go down further, if you're a real detail junkie like I am, you can go through all the specifics about the survey. You can even look at the demographics, the age groups, where they were based. And unfortunately, because surveys are expensive to run, we could only do the US. So you'll see the breakdown of the states there, things like that. But then it gets into graphs around a whole bunch of things around when people would like to hear from a seller, things like that. Starla, do you want to chime in there?
Yeah, well, I think that if you guys have been following these surveys for a while, what we're seeing is a lot of the same. Nothing has really jumped out to me that much this season in terms of what buyers find to be important. One thing I do want to note is that every time we run this survey, Pam Duthie and I both on our own YouTube channels make smaller videos where we break down some of these things, but we also include in actionable steps that can be, applied to some of the things like, well, here's the data, but here's what you can do with the data now that you've, and I've got one coming out this Tuesday as well. But what I think is really important here is look at this data and start to think, not just, wow, this is really cool, but if you see a point in the data where customers specifically say, this is very important to me. This is the thing that will make me trust a buyer or a seller. This is the thing that will convert me into a customer. These are the things that, especially since we're, coming up on holiday time, the things that you should be addressing in your shop first. I'm looking right now where most customers are saying, yeah, reviews and star rating are very important. And obviously that's not something that we can go in and change. But right under that, product photos is the next most important thing to our buyers. That tells me that if you have subpar photos, or maybe you only have one photo per listing, maybe right now is a good time to go in there and start adding more photos to make sure that you are appealing to what is most important to your buyers.
Yeah. And, there are some things that as sellers, we hate hearing from Etsy, like, free shipping is loved by buyers. Well, reality is it is. They like it. So it wins people over. Another one which we hate to hear about and dread doing, but if you have a no hassle return policy, that helps as well. Again, you're buying on the internet, you're buying from someone you don't personally know. You're kind of like, oh, maybe I won't buy from this guy because I just don't know if there's something wrong. I won't get my money back. If you have something like that, it makes them more willing to part with their cash. So there are lots of bit in there. There's a lot of information in here which still shoots down some myths that I see in the Etsy forums, on Reddit and in Facebook. So, if you see people giving advice contrary to that, ask for their research. Seriously, because I saw yesterday someone trying to argue a certain point based on the opinion of 50-ish sellers, like 40 to 50 sellers. I don't know how they can truly represent buyers. I mean, they're on the wrong side of the equation, right? So, and it's a much more smaller sample size. They're biased, and we don't know whether these people are giving you honest and reliable advice. So again, have a read through it. It's a lot of reading, but it's probably an hour really worth your time. Having trouble with English today. The best hour you can spend between now and the next week or so. So get in there now where you can read it, learn from it, and make changes to your store where you think it's appropriate.
Yep. And as always, guys, anecdotal evidence from other sellers is not scientifically conclusive. That's why we run surveys like this. And anytime that Pam and I make videos on these surveys, one of the most common questions I receive is are these buyers? Is this survey sent to buyers or sellers and it is sent to buyers. So these are actual buyers. We need to make sure that we're weighing the opinions of the buyers more heavily than the opinions of sellers who are just talking about how they think, or what they think is important, right? It's more important to make sure that we're weighing the opinions of people who are in the process of shopping, that's how this survey is administered, right? They're in the process of shopping when they are surveyed.
No, we ask them if they've purchased on certain websites.
Got it.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. So, but they are Etsy customers.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't want Amazon customers. That's like not the point of the survey.
Yeah.
We get some in there. There's a lot of overlap between the different marketplaces. But yeah, they have to be Etsy people. If they haven't purchased on Etsy, then we say thank you for your time, but we're not going to be using their feedback for this survey.
Awesome. All right. And Carol, I was just about to say, I hope you're still here because we're finally getting to your question, but she had just said in the chat, yes, I trust your research over opinions over the internet.
Thank you. I mean, the other bit is we pay for it. A lot of the free advice out there from so-called experts it's based on anecdotal evidence. And sometimes I have a sneaking feeling that these folks don't have your best interest at heart. It's almost like, hey, I'm a seller. What can I do to sabotage my competitors? And so, just be very wary.
All right.
And just negativity. There's really, really great information here. Please do read it.
Absolutely. It should
what's
make
the price
you
for this article? Reading it?
Huh?
Free.
Yes.
Yeah.
We paid so that you can have it for free. All right. Well, Carol is still here, so we'll go ahead and get to her question.
Okay.
We've got quite a few, so we might have to power around here.
Great.
Awesome. So Carol said, hello. What?
Still plenty of time.
Yeah. Is it possible to have the bulk keyword tool rank my list once I have the rank I want in the results? It would be great to apply commas too. Love the tool. 900 listings, almost all one of a kind.
Oh, wow.
The bulk
so
keyword tool rank my list.
I'll probably forget parts of those questions, but the comma, I love that idea. That is something we've discussed with the team. I believe it is in the works. I don't have an ETA on when that will be there, but I'll stir them up and see if we can get that released soon. What else was in there? I didn't quite understand that beginning there.
Is it possible to have the bulk keyword tool rank my list once I have the rank I want in the results? Yeah, I'm not quite sure. She said in terms of toggling.
I think I'm probably not answering the question correctly here, but have you tried clicking on the column headings?
There's a little arrow. There's a little arrow that will sift those. And
yeah. You know what? Let us know, Carol. If not, I'll take this offline and see what we can do there. I actually really like the idea here because if we don't have it already, the bulk keyword tool is one of my favorite tools. So anything we can do to make it more useful, I'm all ears for that sort of stuff. So I just increase my screen so I can actually read the question now. Yeah.
Let's see. AI wizardry. What do you guys think? Do prices slashed really attract customers? Do customers even realize my prices are slashed? Do you mean like actually adding a slash? Well, I dare say that marketing experts have been doing and relying on that strategy for, oh man, I would say probably 100 years, maybe more. And clearly, there's probably some people out there that are way smarter than us who can give you all kinds of case studies and things like that.
Well, I can add something while we're waiting. I crunched some data, and what I found was that the conversion rates for listings that are really, really cheap are much higher than conversion rate for listings that are really, really expensive. Like, no duh, Anthony, you're telling the obvious here. But it's kind of consistent all the way through. So the cheaper it gets, the better the conversion. I'm talking on averages here. There's always going to be exceptions, crappy pictures, scary description is going to really mess your conversion rate. But the key point is, if you had an item that was $5 on the dot, you could change that to $4.99, and suddenly you've gone into that next level down. It's sort of like a psychological barrier. I don't want to spend more than $5. Oh, $4.99. Oh, that's fine. Believe it or not, it sounds childish and simple, but the conversion rate for listings at that slightly lower price point is better than that next number up. And if it's a big round number and you can go under by just a penny, it helps, or 5 cents or 10 cents, it helps. May not be too much for you, the loss, but maybe you can benefit from the upside with the increased conversion rate.
Yeah, I highly recommend grabbing the book Predictably Irrational by Dan Ariely. That book talks about a lot of the irrational behavior, like selecting a item that it's priced at $4.99, even though we know that's $5 in our head. It's irrational behavior like that that kind of guides human decision making. And Dan Ariely is an amazing. I think he works at MIT. So he's super intelligent guy. And that book really breaks down a lot of things that you can use to positively impact your marketing in a way that really appeals to human psychology. And it's one of the foundations that I use in my own teaching. So I highly recommend checking it out. And you can get it at most libraries for free. So, all right. Jane had said, in reference to having more listings, I found this to be true, though. Think about it. It's like going into a store that has very little items. You would be tempted to leave. It also gives you an advantage to be shown up more. So two things about that. We're not saying that it's not okay to have a bunch of items. However, there are a couple things that we also need to consider about buyer behavior and how it looks to have a lot of items. If you are a sticker shop and you sell little stickers, they're, like $2, $3, I would not think less of you if I went into your shop and saw thousands of listings. However, if you claim to be a handmade blacksmith, ring shop, and you make diamond engagement rings by hand and you hammer them out, on a little anvil and make these beautiful, I don't know how rings are made, but in this magical world, and you make these rings by hand, and I go into your shop and you have 1,000 rings that you say are all in stock, that you have hand hammered and they're ready to go, I'm going to be very suspicious. And I'm probably not going to look at all of your listings. I'm probably going to immediately assume that those products are not actually handmade. So it completely depends on your industry. Now, if you're seeing success with that strategy, cool. Like, keep doing that. But what we are often seeing right now, especially now that it's easier than ever to list products with, production partners like Printify, is that people won't care about what they're producing. They will just focus on volume and attempt to produce as much as possible. And there are a lot of coaches out there that say, Etsy wants to see you list an item every day. If you list an item every day, you'll get some magical algorithmic boost that will allow you to, reach more customers. Yes, having more listings out there with, different keywords, that it's all like having those little fishing lines out in the water that could potentially help people to find you. But what I'm seeing as a coach on my end, when people have, issues and they come to complain to me, is that they're listing thousands of items because someone told them that volume is what's important and you need to list every day. And they're getting those bills, their Etsy bill for those 20-cent listing fees. And even if they're making sales, their listing fees are canceling those sales out because they're having to put so much money into those listing fees because they have listed so much. And then they're complaining about how, oh, Etsy took all my money. No, Etsy didn't take all your money. You've listed 1,000 products that you don't have any proof of concept for. You don't know if people are interested in them. And rather than really, really buckling down and marketing the products that you have very, very well, you're just focusing on making more without even knowing what works in the first place. So what we don't want to see is people assume that there's a magic number, that Etsy rewards sellers for listing as many products as possible, or that, that buyers want to see as many listings as possible. What's more important is to list batches of items and observe what's working. And if you see something that takes off and does really well, well, try to make something similar to that, or to that niche, or to that type of customer. It's not that we're saying that you can't have a lot of items. We're saying that that's not a golden magical ticket to success.
Mm. Think of it like, remember in mathematics classes, we talk about correlations, which is if something happens, then there's a very good chance of something else happening. And so, if you add more listings, then you're going to get more sales. There's what they will call a loose correlation there. So sure, it could happen, but the probability isn't super high. Your effort in creating hundreds of listings may not yield the same sort of result as, say, taking great photos and uploading those, or writing great descriptions and pricing things right. So sure, I think that there is some benefit to be made. There are plenty of people out there which will tell you, yep, I got to 50 listings and the sales started flowing in. You got that whole person that had 70 listings and no sales. So, there's one on that side, one on that side. That's why I say it's a loose correlation. I wouldn't get fixated on getting thousands of listings in. I would really focus on quality of pictures and listings first and foremost. Like Starla said, get that proof of concept, get some learnings and drill into there, and then start to try and reproduce that with maybe slight variations.
Yeah, and if you go into eRank and you look at the top 100 shops on Etsy right now, none of them are just throwing 1,000 random things into their shops. They all have a niche, or an area of expertise. You don't see any of these people who are just making as much of anything and everything as possible in those most successful sellers, and that should tell you something. So let's see. Never give up. That's a nice name.
I like that name.
In some listings, eRank shows that your listing is on page 1 for that keyword, but the listing doesn't show up on the first page of Etsy. Why? That's your favorite question.
And ads. This is a very common question. So a couple of things here. We can't scrape Etsy to get your exact ranking that you would personally see. Etsy would kick our butts for doing that. We have to use their API, which is a special system they created for developers like eRank, and that returns results based on what they deem are the most relevant results for those keywords you entered at that point in time. So a couple of things to drill down in on. Personalization. So when we use the API, there is no personalization at all. So it's not going to be looking at your browsing history or your neighbor's browsing history, or someone on the other side of the world. It's basically Etsy's raw, unfiltered results there. So that's what you're seeing on eRank. What you see on Etsy has all that personalization. It has ads thrown in there as well. So never expect them to align. Really, what I suggest you do is you look at the rank checker to get that unbiased opinion. I mean, you can go and try incognito, you can try VPN. It just doesn't work that way. Etsy have ways of identifying you, and if you use VPN, then they will most likely show you results that are personalized to whoever was using that VPN or that IPN address before you. So yeah, that's really it. Personalization, ads. Yeah, we don't muck around with the results there. We basically pass them to you as we get them directly from Etsy.
Yeah, think of it this way. Think of what we get as like the naked version of the data. And then for every unique shopper on Etsy, including you and I, they get this layer of personalization, like Anthony said, applied to their search, where if Etsy notices that I specifically buy a lot of products that are blue, for example, maybe they know that about me. They've built a little knowledge base about me, and they know that I like blue things. So when I'm searching for jewelry, maybe they make it a point to throw in a lot of blue themed jewelry, because they know that everything that I buy is blue, and I click on a lot of listings that have blue items. Now, that's just an example. We don't know exactly how Etsy's personalization works, but they do say things like style, and if someone has a specific affinity towards a type of item. So what we're able to give you should be seen kind of as what the average shopper is going to see in search. And this can help you to identify which of your listings might need work. If you know that the keyword itself is good, you've done the research and you know that people are searching for that keyword, and you're, going through the rank checker and you see that you have some listings on page 1, 2, maybe even 3, those aren't the listings that I would focus on touching. I would start looking at those listings that are way back, way back on far search pages, especially if you're not ranking for the keywords that you want to rank for. And maybe those are the listings that I work on. Maybe those are the listings that I improve. If I've got a listing on page 1 for the keyword that I want to rank for, but it's not, making any sales, maybe I can rule SEO out as a potential problem. And maybe I'll work on my photos instead, or maybe it's my pricing that I need to work on. So a lot of people say like, oh, it's not what, real shoppers are seeing, therefore it doesn't have a purpose. No, it definitely has a purpose. It's a tool that can help you to know where you should start when it comes to improving the listings that might not be performing as well as others in your shop, which is how I use it.
Perfect.
All right. Anna said, I got a message to confirm my seller info within 10 days, which I've just done. Don't forget to check that, folks. Otherwise, payments get paused after 7 days and shop put on vacation after 10 days. Very interesting. Was that via email?
That's not one of those scams, is it?
Etsy does request you to confirm your payment information. Just if you ever get a message from Etsy or Etsy support or a customer who says, I can't buy your item until you give me your email address, don't ever send your email address to, your Etsy account to anybody. Etsy already has it. They don't need it for anything, and customers don't need it to make a purchase. It's always a scam. Let's see. Oh, she said email and on my dashboard. Yeah, that's usually how Etsy.
Okay, that's right. Yeah.
All right. Joseph.
Nowadays.
Yeah. Joseph said, so how much should I charge for the shipping of a second product if I'm selling sweatshirts? That sounds like a question that you'll probably have to experiment with and figure out yourself, unfortunately.
Yeah. How much does it weigh? What are the dimensions? Yeah. How are USPS nowadays? I know that my wife used to occasionally go down and say, how much would it cost to ship this stuff? But we've got a pretty quiet post office here.
Yeah, you can usually just package your products. I mean, unless you're POD, obviously, but you can package up your products in the exact box that you plan to ship it in. Go on a day when your post office isn't boring, busy, or
Never boring, man.
Boring. Go on a day when your post office isn't busy. You can usually go on Google and it'll tell you like the busy times for that specific post office, and just ask them to weigh your package and ask them, what's the most efficient way to ship this, and that's what they're there for. They'll help you. All right, let's see. Is it Sean? I think the thought is about being able to gather more data and also test out designs, the design process, etc., and seeing what hits. Of course, you'll only design for niche keywords that have searches. I'm not sure what that was in reference to.
I think that might have been a response to someone else.
Got it. I was going to say that does make sense. Okay. Michelle, does changing your price on most of your listings within 24 hours mess with the algorithm? Etsy has not said anything about our products or how they're ranking in any, has any correlation to our pricing, unless a shopper is specifically using the sort feature and sorting by price. But that wouldn't be an algorithmic thing necessarily. That's just sorting, that if a customer wants a product that's cheaper than what you're offering, then they're not a target customer at that point anyway. So, but no, they don't say anything about pricing.
No. Yeah, in fact, they encourage people to change their pricing up and often down.
All right. Joe, A lot of sellers complain about Etsy sales dropping like crazy. Nothing has changed in the listings, but sales and even visits drop like crazy. Did you hear anything about it? Well, wouldn't you know, we actually have a nice little graph. Are we able to pull up the sites tool? Is Pam able to do that?
I'll do that. Pam, if you're still awake, can you share my screen? Oh, I'll share my screen. Can you present it?
It's fun when we have the exact cool like data to answer a question.
Yeah. Convenient. Okay.
There we go. Whoop, whoop.
There we are. Alrighty. So what I recommend you do is pop into the sites menu and click on site info. And just type in etsy.com. So what this will do is it'll bring back the stats for Etsy. So for example, I mean, great, they're the 46th most popular website in the US. Woohoo! But here's really where I get most interested. I like to look at the rank to see whether that rank's changed over time, because that tells me, maybe there's something seasonal going on. But I also like to look at the reach graph. Now, the reach graph is the percentage of Americans that are visiting Etsy. Think of it like that. So 4% of Americans are visiting Etsy. Now, it dropped quite a bit lately, down to 2.5%, 2.7%. So people that were saying, "Oh, where did the sales go?" Well, you're feeling the side effect of this drop. Basically, that happens this time of the year. It's like end of summer, those dog days. It's like it just gets tough for a while. But the good news is it's just started to tick up again. So some of you are probably going, "Yay, I'm already feeling the improvement." Others are probably going, still crickets. My advice is hang in there, because what's going to happen is it's going to jump up very, very soon as we start getting into November. Like basically Thanksgiving. As soon as Thanksgiving is over in the US, boom, Black Friday hits, Cyber Monday hits, and those are typically the two busiest days on Etsy. So get your stuff together right now if you haven't already started, because it's about to go crazy.
Yeah, and
hopefully you're in that, included in that.
And you know, another thing to keep in mind, this is actually a post that Jay from Jay's Way, we've worked with him in the past. He's a pretty cool guy. Jay made an amazing post in one of the Etsy groups, but he had said something like, I can't remember exactly what he said. I said it during the Friday Bean. Basically, he said that if you're not already making consistent sales, or if you have no sales right now, don't expect Q4 to be some magical, money making potion that you're going to drink and suddenly you're going to make a bunch of sales. You still have to consider that there's a human element to all of this. A real human being has to want what you're selling. And if there's no demand for your item, or your photos aren't great, or your SEO isn't great, or your pricing is misaligned, or you're just in a saturated industry and your product isn't unique, don't assume that just because you are on Etsy during a busy season that you're going to see the same level of results. Because every year we have so many sellers who talk about how great they've done, but then we have just as many sellers who talk about how poorly they've done. And they're upset, and that's understandable. But please remember that the holidays come every year. Right now, if you are just now prepping for the holidays and you don't already, make any sales at all, yeah, you could do well. But really that holiday success is built through consistent growth and effort and experimenting and improvements throughout the entire year, not just the week before Black Friday. However, the cool thing is during the holiday season, you can look at your competitors. You can look at what they're doing right. You can monitor their social media marketing. You can check out their super cool Instagram accounts and research what they're doing in order to adjust your own strategy for next year. So think of this as not just an opportunity for sales, but also a really great opportunity to learn and grow from a lot of great data that is going to be at your fingertips. All right. Let's see. Anna had asked, as an EU person, I would have to offer returns on POD. Yes, because you have to be able to return or refund. But that means US customers would have to pay to ship or pay shipping to return an item to Ireland. I'm guessing the expense of that would annoy them. I'm sure that there would probably be some. You have to ask yourself, can I loop these necessary expenses that come with the ease of running a POD business? Or is it worth it to give a customer a great experience and potentially, not get that bad review or deal with a customer who's angry? When you run a handmade business, you have to buy tools, you have to buy supplies. Sometimes you have to, have space. Sometimes you have to pay employees. You have to buy your boxes, your bubble wrap, your scissors, all the things that, that you can add into your business expenses. As a POD business, you don't have as many expenses. So spending a little bit of money to ensure the longevity of your business and giving a customer a great experience, in my personal opinion, is worth it. Now, don't let anybody take advantage of you. Don't give refunds out just because people are, angry or whatever, to try to make them happy again. But as you said, you do have to offer refunds or returns. I would just, if I were you, I would consider adding that as one of your business expenses, or be prepared for occasionally having customers who are upset. It just depends on what's more worth it to you. I don't like dealing with confrontation. I would rather make the person happy. All right. Jill asked, what about free shipping? Do you think people would buy my things if they were $15 more expensive? Well, I think it completely depends on what you sell and your target audience, but the only way to know is to test it out and see.
Yep, agreed. If it's a dollar item, obviously not. But yeah, you need to run some tests there to see whether there is any appetite for that. I would add this as well. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense to offer free shipping. So keep that in mind. No one says we will absolutely not buy from someone because they don't offer free shipping. It's just the chances are slightly lower. You don't want to be offering free shipping and not absorbing the cost and going backwards, basically creating a loss-making business. You don't want to do that. We're never going to encourage you to do that. But experiment. If you can experiment and you find that it is actually working, then great. Maybe you come out positive here. But yeah, just experiment and don't. Small experiments. You know how I feel about these things, Stella. Small experiments.
Exactly. Pick one or two listings, see how they do. If they do well, pick a couple more. I wouldn't do your best sellers. Like, maybe let those sit and, do a small trickle over. All right. Amy, can you remind me why eRank doesn't have data for some keywords? Is it only because people truly aren't searching?
Okay. So, Amy, the answer is we don't have the data on what every person on Etsy searches for. Only Etsy's got that, and they don't give that to us. So we have a panel. I haven't checked lately, but I'd like to say it's around about 8 or 10 million Americans. And so we have a pretty huge sample size, but it's not everyone. So that's why there are gaps there. Mathematically, I would say that if you don't see any data, or you see, less than 20 or something like that, and you see it consistently, it will tell me that if there's no data, we can't find anyone that's searching for it. They could be, but it's probably like this much, and I wouldn't be, betting the house on a keyword that, has no signs of life. If it's consistently, somewhere between 20 and 1,000, that's pretty good, especially for long tail keywords. That's quite good. But yeah, we will have gaps in the data. That's just unfortunately the nature of the beast. Maybe It's time to send Etsy another email to see if they're ever going to release that for us. But I'm not going to hold my breath there.
All right. Sprouted Dreams asked, Printify is changing our wrapping paper sizes and is requiring us to make new listings. I don't want to lose present quality scores and reviews. How can we keep these on the new product? I don't think that there's anything that you can do. I know that sucks, and that's probably not what you want to hear. I will say that in my experience, because, I mean, your quality score, obviously, you're not going to have the same quality score. You still will have your overall customer and marketplace experience score, which is the sum total of all that goodness that Etsy has seen in your shop based on those past sales. So you'll still have that. And what I've noticed on Etsy is that typically when there are similar keywords, like a similar type of item, for example, all of your wrapping paper, and you're selling a new listing for wrapping paper, if you don't have any reviews for that specific wrapping paper, Etsy can identify that those reviews that you have gotten were for other wrapping paper listings. And those are what will show up on that listing, even if it's not the exact same wrapping paper. If you get a review for that wrapping paper, that'll be at the top. But then the other reviews will be for other wrapping paper that you've sold. I assume that they're just looking at similar keywords and kind of grouping what they assume are the same types of items together so that those buyers have a clearer picture. The best place to ask your question is the Printify POD Rockstars group on Facebook, because that group is staffed by Printify employees and a lot of really experienced sellers, and they'll be able to give you a much better answer than I can. All right. Never give up. Sometimes it shows that a keyword is high in trend, but click-through rate and clicks are not. Why, and can we use this type of keyword? So high searches, I'm assuming high searches, but low clicks and click-through rate.
Yeah. You can use that. Well, again, all things being equal, you can use that word. It could be something, it could be a popular word that when paired with other words that you have in your tags or in your title, create really good combinations. So, if all your words were like that and there were no good combinations, probably not a good word. But I think if you've got a mix there, like a good, I want to say superstar keyword, but it's not really that, but a good, I can't think of another word, a good keyword that's got good high volume and it's got low clicks and click-through rate. Still think it's worthy if it's relevant to your product. Just remember to have other words in there that it can pair with well.
All right. We'll do 10 minutes left. We'll power around these.
All right.
Let's see. We had another question from Never Give Up. My shop is in Italian. Recently, I updated the titles and tags in the listings. I'm not able to see the update in Etsy, but the titles and tags I put are showing correctly in eRank. That sounds like maybe you need to clear your cache. Unless Etsy's translating.
Possibly. On Etsy, there is a little widget, last time I checked, on the bottom of the page, which will do some sort of forced translation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just checking. Talk amongst yourselves, folks.
Well, go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
The bottom left, there's a little flag. Mine says US, English, UK, and US dollars. Yours, you might want to check to see whether it's Italian or whether it's English.
Got it. All right. And Jane, we didn't skip your question. I see you submitted it again. We're still way up in the chat.
Oh, yeah,
I just now got to it. I've noticed that Etsy will suggest 20% off discount. If I don't want to give a 20% off discount, do you think that Etsy may not promote my items as much because I didn't use their suggestion? No. They do have special sales. For example, they're doing like their big cyber sale, and you'll be included in their special sales page where if somebody clicks on the category where Etsy, recommends different categories and they specifically click on that category for that sale, then you'll be promoted for that sale that they're running. But running a sale, they're not going to rank you above listings that are choosing not to run sales. Again, it's something that would be too easy to game. Etsy doesn't reward us for things that are, easy to game. Otherwise, everybody's shops would be on sale all the time, which I know in most countries, including the US, that's actually illegal. It's an FTC violation to constantly have your business running on sale. Let's see. KBH Create. A small and perhaps random question. Did the eRank dashboard change in the last few days? Suddenly my number of listings is in red. Is that new? It makes me think something is wrong.
We made some changes. So what we've done is we've split things out a little bit. So we've got a little health check, which basically we move the little widgets that are there to let you know if we've seen a problem. And so check it out. It's rearranged in a slightly smarter way. We're going to make some more changes. We're hoping to get feedback from people about this. We kind of screwed up with the colors though on that section. So where they should be a nice sort of blue, they're suddenly a red. So I think, well, I saw this morning a change which had fixed the colors again. If you want to check again, hopefully they're back to normal colors now. But the red we normally do leave, we reserve for, hey, this needs attention. So my apologies there. We messed up with the coloring a little bit there, but I think that should be fixed. I've got to go and check myself now.
All right. Amy, when looking at traffic stats on my eRank dashboard, it shows both Pinterest and com.pinterest as sources. They show different numbers of visits. What's the difference between the two?
Wow, that's interesting. Would you mind sending me a screenshot of that, please? I'll get that over to the developers. I know that Pinterest has different top-level domains. So pinterest.com.au, pinterest.de. I suspect that we are bundling those variations into one of those Pinterest options. But you're right. Shouldn't be like that. That is confusing. They really should be merged into one. That's just one of those things. There's some websites that have all these different variations. Etsy's really good. It's etsy.com across the board. Amazon, not so good. Amazon.com, amazon.de, amazon.com.au, etc., etc. So yeah, send us a screenshot if you don't mind. I'll make a note that a screenshot can really help as well.
Awesome. Heather had mentioned that she noticed that drop in traffic started after the Keep Etsy Human movement. And someone else had said sales dropped for that time period across most big platforms, Amazon, eBay, et cetera, not just Etsy. Heather, it's also important to note that this is not a rare occurrence to see sales drop at this time of year. It's an annual occurrence that we see around back to school time. So it was more, and we saw that dip before we did the Keep Etsy Human movement. I don't think that our, few thousand sellers impacted the probably millions and millions of people visiting Etsy. However, we have seen some very positive changes on Etsy's end. I'm not 100% happy with, all of them, but we can see the effort starting to be made. And I'm not going to say that 100% came from the Keep Etsy Human movement, but I do think that sellers repeatedly and persistently sharing their voices has been leading Etsy to reflect on some of the things that need to be changed. And right after Keep Etsy Human, they introduced the Share and Save program, which is, I think, very helpful. I'm a big fan of it. It's a really cool little incentive that Etsy's introduced to us. So, all right. And Jane had asked, Starla, do you still sell your jewelry? Nobody knows how busy I am like Anthony does, because on top of a huge YouTube channel, my coaching, eRank, doing Q&As here, running, I've got a brand new shop where we legally license with authors to sell their merchandise, and the gazillion and one other things that I do.
And
I also,
and you're a mother.
And I'm a mother.
A little mini human, right?
Yeah, she's upstairs. No, we decided to rehome her. It was too much work. But I was spending 16 plus hours in my office making and packaging my orders, and COVID slowed things down with one of my suppliers. We were no longer able to get Swarovski crystals, and to be quite honest, making the jewelry didn't make me happy anymore. So I'm doing more things that I love to do. I'm working in a niche that I really enjoy, which is authors. I am also an author, so it's really fun. And I really enjoy what we make. And we just opened a brand new shop. So lots of fun, but I do still sell. All right, let's see. Looks like we're getting towards the end here.
Hey, I've got a special request. I had April, she's just joined into YouTube. Poor April used to be with eRank, left and has come back, and she's looking for some videos to help her get started, probably amongst other things. So April, if you've got any specific questions, please get them in. We've got about 3 or 4 minutes left. But if not, we'll try and add some more video links and so forth, or just email me again with some specific questions and I'll help you.
Yeah, and I've got a really great video. It was the one that I know that you had linked it when we were playing around with our new kind of helper system, Anthony. I did a pretty good video a few weeks ago, and it's just an overview of your eRank dashboard. Now, obviously, the health check is new, but aside from that, it's still relevant as of right now. We are, going to make more changes in the future. But if you watch the video today, it should be able to help you with the 2 most essential things that, you're probably at eRank to do, which is what to do once you get to your dashboard and how the keyword tool works. So, all right. Amy said, to clarify for my brain, Etsy gives eRank a sample size of 8 to 10 million people. If my keyword is hitting for less than 20 to 1,000, that's still pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I think that's good.
All right. I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. Oh, I think one just came in.
I'm on month 8 and have over 300 sales and 94 5-star reviews. That's that's
awesome, April.
Yeah, those are good numbers.
Yeah, there will be thousands of Etsy sellers who are jealous right now. But I know you always got to strive for more. But you're already doing something really well.
Yeah.
Great result.
If it makes you feel better, my new shop, we just opened it last month and we've got 6 sales. So you officially have more than me in my new shop. So those are really great numbers though. So keep chugging along.
We got confirmation the colors were fixed, so that's good.
Oh, great. Perfect.
What time is it in Melbourne right now?
Oh, that was on Facebook.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I think we're right on the hour, Starla. So
we are. Well,
I think we're pretty good.
Let me go ahead and guys, I'm going to pop that link into the chat one more time. Make sure that you check out our buyer survey that we just ran. There's so much that you can learn, way more that we can cover during this Q&A. But I think that there's a lot of really good actionable nuggets in here that Michelle has included in her writing on how you can actually utilize the information that's presented in the survey. Not only that, but if you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you expand out the video description. Pam Duthie and my channel are both linked in the video description, and we typically do smaller breakdowns of the individual survey questions, and we include actionable tips that can help you to really know how to use this data to improve your shop. So I hope that helps, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out. And Linda, she had said, I'm so lost. I've been open for almost a year and only have 4 sales. I need help. Check out some of the videos on our channel. the eRank channel is full of different videos that are going to help you to use tools that are designed to help you improve your shop so that you can start seeing those sales that you want. And I know that it's a slow process, but it is an ongoing process, and you're going to have to be dedicated to learning every day. Even the most experienced sellers, they still have to learn and strategize and plan, adapt, and evolve, which is, my favorite quote that I say over and over. Plan for change. It's always going to happen. Adapt to those changes, because ultimately, if you don't, you're going to get left behind, and eventually you'll evolve and you'll become a new and better version of yourself. But guys, thanks so much for hanging out, and we will see you next week.
Okay, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all the great questions. And take care.